Okay. Good morning. I did my research on the impact of athletic experience on academic performance. First, we're going to start with a quote from Earl Campbell. It says, I talk to student athletes. I try to get them to remember that they're not just athletes, but student athletes. You need to get an education, keep your hands clean, and try to represent the university. All right, this quote is motivating student athletes to get their education first and represent athletics second. All right, overview, we'll have theoretical framework, review of the literature, discussion, and references. All right, the theoretical framework, so I use the behaviorism theory. It examines the effects of positive reinforcement on student athletes' behavior when it comes to practicing their respective sport and how they execute in real game. And so Tougaloo College coaches use incentives and punishments to promote desired behavior on and off the court or field. Statement of the problem. The problem of the study is that the athletic experience tends to have an impact on the student athlete's academic performance, and I use Tougaloo College for the school. The purpose of the study is to determine if athletic experience will have an impact on the student athlete's academic performance. And I also included a little picture here that shows like what a student athlete is and like what they represent. Review of the literature. So participating in sports demand a significant amount of practice and commitment. So student athletes, they juggle demanding schedules filled with practices, competitions, and academics, and they have to develop their abilities beyond the athletic field and into the classroom. And so they sacrifice their academics for many hours of preparation and training before their games. Right. Historical Black colleges and universities, also known as HBCUs, they were founded in the United States at the beginning of the 19th century to give individuals of African origin access to undergraduate and graduate programs. So there were very few possibilities for Black students to seek higher education, so HBCUs became important to them. All right, so HBCU uniqueness. So each HBCU has its own culture and norms that makes them different from one another. So, for example, at Tougaloo College, students are able to participate in SGA, Student Government Association, Black Letter, Greek letter organizations, campus activities, religious activities. They can be residential assistants or they can serve as campus ambassadors. And so, like the cultural preservations at Tougaloo include convocations, founder suite, and homecoming. And these give students different activities to participate in outside of their athletics so they're able to receive like the full college experience. In HBCU athletic conferences, so the National Association of Intercollegiate Athletics, NAIA, was the first collegiate sports organization to organize national championships for both men and women divisions and the first to welcome HBCUs as members. So Tougaloo College is a part of the NAIA and they're a member of the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, the GCAC. And this is just a picture of different HBCUs. All right, so the analysis of the findings. So what is your grade point average range? This is at Tougaloo College. It want many participants in this study, but as you can see, there are 8 students who had between a 2.0 and a 2.9. You had 10 students who had a 3.0 to a 3.49. And you had about 5 students that had a 3.5 to a 4.0. So as you can see, the student athletes are getting their academics in as well as being athletes. So do you think too much practice takes away from your academic experience? So 60% says they believe it does, and the other 39% says it does. Do you believe that participating in athletics has a negative impact on your academic experience, such as like time management and organizational skills? So about 21% said it does, and then 78% says it does not. So they athletics has a positive impact on their developing academic skills. And has being a student athlete help you develop better time management skills? You had about 8 that said no, and 8% that said no, and you had about 91% that said yes. So while being an athlete and getting their academics in, they're able to develop these different time management skills to help them throughout their college experience. And do you believe that athletic involvement affects students' motivation to attend classes regularly? You had about 30% that said no, 69% that said yes. So being an athlete can kind of just, affect their motivation. Like students might not want to get up because they're too tired or anything or things of that nature. However, based on their GPA ranges, you see that they're still able to get there to keep their academics up. All right, crossing the finish line. This is just the example that the graduation rate across D1 schools in the NCAA has increased over the years. So student athletes are still getting their academics in so that they're able to graduate and reach the finish line. All right, discussion. So the findings show that student athletes are involved on campus, not just in athletics. They are satisfied with their academic performance, and they perform better academically than athletically, you could say, and the graduation rates among the student athletes continue to rise. So as long as they're being able to use those organizational skills, they're able to continue putting their education first and being a student athlete second. So recommendations for further research, we can utilize and research other HBCUs in the state of Mississippi. So this is a picture of all 7 HBCUs in Mississippi. And then we can find methods to like gain research participation from student athletes at those other schools. And these are my references.